I walked in on my stepdad, comforting my sister, but what I heard shattered our family in one night. Reddit stories. One sentence through her bedroom door turned my blood to ice and exposed a betrayal so deep it cracked our home in half. When my mom learned the truth, everything Rick thought he could hide started collapsing around him in real time. Hi, I'm Marcus, 24, and 3 weeks ago my entire family snapped in half like a dollar store lawn chair when I found out my stepfather wasn't just helping my sister through a rough patch. He was helping himself to her. And yes, she's 18, an adult, but that didn't make the discovery any less of a nuclear detonation in our house. To understand how we got here, you need to know 2 things about my stepfather, Rick. First, the man looks like he was sculpted by someone who got bored halfway through. Gym-built upper body, legs that quit growing emotionally around 1999. Second, he has the personality of a golden retriever who failed out of obedience school. Loud, overconfident, weirdly obsessed with grilling meat as a personality trait. My mom married him when I was 20. I moved out shortly after, partly for college, partly because I suspected if I stayed any longer, I'd wind up on the evening news for tearing out our kitchen cabinets to escape the sound of Rick saying, "Boss man," unironically. My sister, Lily, stayed home while finishing school and figuring out her life. She's sharp, blunt, and allergic to stupidity, which made it extra confusing that she and Rick ever had more than a "hey, you bought the wrong brand of cereal again" relationship. At least, that's what I thought. Everything shifted the night I swung by unannounced. I'd left my laptop charger at Mom's house, and since Lily usually borrowed it and forgot to return things, I knew exactly where it'd be, her room. I walked in through the side door, called out a hello, and headed down the hallway. That's when I heard voices. Not arguing. Not fighting. Laughing. But not normal laughing, the soft, close-range kind. The kind that makes your stomach realize something is wrong before your brain catches up. I froze, listening. My sister's voice. Rick's voice. Too close. Too warm. Something in my chest tightened like a fist. And then I heard the sentence that turned my spine into barbed wire. "Don't worry, Lily, your brother doesn't suspect a thing." I didn't even remember pushing the door open. I just remember their faces. And the moment my entire definition of family shattered. The second the door flew open, all 3 of us froze, me at the threshold, Lily sitting on the edge of her bed with her knees pulled up, and Rick standing way too close. The kind of close that instantly erases any innocent explanation from existence. The room felt humid, wrong, like it had been sealed shut for hours. Lily's cheeks were flushed. Rick looked like a guilty Labrador caught eating drywall. He had the nerve to say, "Marcus, hey, bud! We were just talking." "Save it," I said. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It came out flat, cold, like someone else had borrowed my vocal cords. Lily wouldn't meet my eyes. That hurt more than whatever Rick had been doing. Now, I'm not the confrontational brother. I'm usually the "let's de-escalate and get tacos about it" sibling. But something ancient and feral clawed its way up the back of my throat. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from restraint. "Move away from her," I told Rick. He didn't. He did this half-step, half-shrug thing like he was trying to look casual while also sucking in his gut. "It's not what it looks like," he said. Those 6 words. The classic anthem of people who know exactly what it looks like. Behind him, Lily finally looked up. Her expression wasn't scared. It wasn't ashamed. It was conflicted. And that terrified me more. Because suddenly I wasn't sure if she was being manipulated or if she had convinced herself this disaster made sense. "Marcus," she said softly, "can we just—" "No. Not we. Not you too. What the hell is going on?" Rick rubbed his face dramatically. "We didn't want you to find out like this." "Oh, you had a plan? A big announcement? Matching t-shirts? What exactly was the rollout strategy here?" He winced. Lily closed her eyes like the whole world was weighing on her shoulders. And then the bomb dropped. Lily whispered, "We care about each other." I felt the floor disappear beneath me. Not literally. Just emotionally, spiritually, cosmically, my brain fell straight through the earth's crust. I stared at her. "He's married to Mom." Rick actually had the gall to say, "Your mom and I have been having issues." "Issues? Rick, you can't fix a marriage by dating your stepdaughter." He opened his mouth to respond, but I stepped forward, and he shut it again. Apparently even Rick's peacock brain could recognize when someone was 2 seconds from redecorating his dental arrangement. "Get out," I said. "Right now." Lily looked panicked. "Marcus, please. I'm not talking to you." "Rick." "Out." He muttered something under his breath and brushed past me, smelling like cologne, sweat, and bad decisions. The second he was gone, Lily burst into tears, the ugly, shaking kind. And that's when the panic in my chest finally turned into action. I wasn't letting my sister get swallowed by whatever this was. This is where everything stops being a shock and starts becoming a full-on house fire. Lily was still crying, curled into herself like she was trying to fold down small enough to disappear. I shut the bedroom door, not to hide anything, but because I knew once I walked back out into that hallway, the next 24 hours were going to be war. "Lily," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Talk to me. How long has this been going on?" She wiped her face with her sleeve. "A few months." "Months," I repeated, because apparently my brain needed extra time to process math when emotional trauma was involved. As in plural. As in this wasn't a one-time midlife crisis moment where Rick tripped and fell into delusion. She shook her head. My pulse thudded in my ears. I felt sick, furious, protective, exhausted, betrayed, the whole buffet. "He listens to me," she said. "He makes me feel understood. Mom's always gone, and we were just talking at first and then. He's a grown man who should know better." I snapped. "He's not some lost puppy. He's your stepfather." She winced but didn't argue. That scared me even more. It meant she already knew how bad it was, she just didn't know how to climb out. "Did he pressure you?" I asked. "Did he tell you not to tell anyone? Did he say Mom wouldn't get it? Did he guilt you? Threaten you?" "What?" She hesitated. That hesitation was everything. "He said he didn't want to ruin the family," she admitted. "That if people found out, everyone would blame me. That I'd lose Mom. That you'd hate me. That I'd look like the villain." I felt something in my chest snap clean in half. "That's manipulation," I said. "That's textbook, Lily." She stared at the floor. "I don't know what to do." "Well," I said, standing up, "I do." She looked up, panicked. "Marcus, please don't. I'm not letting him trap you in this mess. Not emotionally, not mentally, not with threats, not with guilt. This ends tonight." She shook her head desperately. "You can't tell Mom. She'll implode. Then she can implode. Better that than living with a man who thinks basic moral boundaries are optional." I walked out of her room with one purpose: find Mom, tell her the truth, and watch Rick's entire existence detonate. Except when I got to the living room, Mom was already there, standing in the doorway, staring at Rick. And Rick was saying the absolute worst sentence he could have possibly chosen in that moment. "I think your kids need to understand you and I might not work out." Mom's expression? Imagine someone discovering their husband cheated, their daughter lied, and their entire family was a Jenga tower made of gasoline-soaked matches, all at once. She turned her head slowly toward me. "Marcus," she said, her voice ice cold. "What's going on?" And for the first time in my life, I watched Rick's confidence evaporate like he'd just been caught digging his own grave with a plastic spoon. If you've never watched a grown man realize he's about to be verbally dismembered, I highly recommend it for educational purposes. Rick's swagger drained straight out of his pores. Mom looked like she was deciding whether to burn the house down or just salt the earth and start fresh somewhere with better men. "Marcus," she repeated, slower this time. What is going on? I looked at Rick. He looked at the floor. Good, he should study it, because it's where his dignity was about to be buried. Mom, I said carefully, you're not going to like this. Her eyes narrowed. Am I ever going to like anything after what I just heard him say? Rick made this tiny throat noise, like a squeaky door hinge trying to apologize. I didn't sugarcoat it. Rick has been getting involved with Lily. Silence. Earth-ending, oxygen-free silence. Mom blinked once. Twice. Her hands trembled, but her jaw didn't. She wasn't the screaming type. She was the type whose rage cooled into something denser and more lethal. Explain, she said. Rick jumped in first. Of course he did. Cowards always sprint toward excuses like moths toward porch lights. Honey, he said, with this pitiful attempt at reassuring voice, there's been some confusion. No, Mom cut him off, raising a single finger. Confusion implies there are two interpretations. I want facts. Now. He faltered. Lily appeared in the hallway behind me, tears streaked down her cheeks again. Mom's eyes locked on her, and you could see something inside her cracking open: hurt, betrayal, fear, a mother's instinct fighting with disbelief. Lily, Mom said, not unkindly. Is this true? Lily nodded once. Small. Devastated. That was it. That one movement detonated whatever restraint Mom had left. She turned to Rick with the coldest fury I've ever seen in a human being. Get out of my house! Rick raised his hands. Christine, listen! Out. Her voice didn't rise. It dropped. Low. Final. She sounded like a verdict. I didn't force anything, Rick insisted, suddenly trying to look noble. It was mutual. Rick, I warned. Because blaming my sister in front of me? Bold move for someone whose legs were about to be used as lawn furniture. But Mom stepped forward before I could. You manipulated my daughter, she said. You betrayed me. And you lied to both of us. You're leaving. Now. Or Marcus will make you. I absolutely would have. Happily. I was already planning the object I would throw him with. Rick looked between the three of us like he was choosing the safest exit in a burning building. Spoiler, there wasn't one. He grabbed his keys and stormed out, muttering something about how we were overreacting, as if seducing your stepdaughter was equivalent to forgetting to take the trash out. The door slammed. Mom collapsed onto the couch like gravity had doubled. Lily sank to the floor, sobbing quietly. And I just stood there, useless, angry, protective, wishing I could reverse time and punch Rick in the face 3 months ago. Finally, Mom looked up at me with exhausted, broken eyes. What do we do now? She whispered. And I realized this wasn't the end of the disaster. It was the beginning of the fallout. The thing about a family implosion is that no one tells you what to do next. There's no handbook titled "So Your Husband Ran Off After Getting Cozy with Your Daughter." We were 3 people sitting in a living room that suddenly felt way too big, way too quiet, and way too heavy. Mom wiped her face with both hands, then froze like the world had finally caught up to her. I need to understand what actually happened, she said to Lily. Not angry. Not blaming. Just hollow. Lily was curled into herself on the carpet, shoulders shaking. I sat beside her. Not touching, she wasn't ready, but close enough that she knew she wasn't facing this alone. Lily, Mom said softly, please tell me the truth. All of it. I won't yell. I won't blame you. I just need to know. Lily took a long breath, then another, then finally spoke. It started when I was stressed about school, she whispered. He'd ask how I was doing. He listened. He made me feel noticed. I didn't think it was anything until he started saying Mom didn't appreciate him. That he felt alone. That I was the only person who saw him. Mom flinched. Not visibly, just this tiny microspasm, like someone had cut a nerve. Lily continued, voice breaking. He said if we told anyone, they'd think I was the problem. He said he didn't want you to hate me. I didn't know how to get out of it without making everything worse. Mom covered her mouth. Tears slid down her cheeks silently. That was the part that gutted me, not the crying, but the silence. My mom's heartbreak didn't explode outward. It collapsed inward. I felt heat rise in my chest again, anger so fierce it made my fingers twitch. He cornered you emotionally, I said to Lily. That's not a relationship. That's a trap. Lily nodded, sobbing harder. Mom finally reached out and pulled her in. Sweetheart, she whispered, I don't blame you. I'm so sorry you were put in that position. That broke me a little. Because for the first time that night, Lily leaned into her. Not away. Not in shame. In relief. I let them have the moment, but my mind was already racing ahead, the logistics, the consequences, the looming chaos. Mom finally looked at me. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. We need to tell someone, she said. Someone outside the house. A counselor. A therapist. A lawyer. I don't know which one first. Not him, I said immediately. He doesn't get to control the narrative. No, Mom said sharply. He doesn't. A new kind of determination settled on her face, not rage this time, but resolve. The kind people get when they realize no one is coming to fix the wreckage, so they have to become the bulldozer and the architect at the same time. But then, of course, the universe decided we hadn't suffered enough. Because Rick, dear, delusional, self-owning Rick, started calling Mom's phone. Then mine. Then Lily's. Repeatedly. Like a man who had just realized he left his dignity in our living room and was hoping someone would hand it back before it got rained on. At first we ignored it. But then came the message Mom played on speaker. I think we should talk. All of us. Before things get blown out of proportion. Blown out of proportion. I swear my vision actually tinted red. Mom stared at the phone like it had personally insulted her ancestors. Lily curled tighter, like hearing his voice reopened every wound. And me? I realized this wasn't just a family crisis. This was about to become a full-scale confrontation. Mom set her phone face down on the coffee table like it was a live grenade and she was waiting to see which direction it would roll. None of us spoke for a minute. Even the air felt hesitant, like it didn't want to be in the room with us. Finally, I exhaled. He wants a meeting? He's out of his mind. Mom laughed, one sharp, humorless sound. He thinks he can spin this. Of course he did. Rick had always been the kind of guy who believed he could win an argument using confidence alone, like facts were optional and volume was currency. Lily sniffed. What does he think we'll say? Sure, Rick, great idea. Let's get coffee and discuss the appropriate boundaries you forgot existed. I glanced at her. She had some fire back in her voice. Good. Anger was healthier than shame. Mom straightened her posture. The heartbreak was still there, but something colder had climbed in beside it, clarity. We're not meeting him. But we will respond. Once. In writing. What are you going to say? I asked. Mom picked up her phone, wiped her eyes, and typed slowly, deliberately. She read it aloud. Rick, there is nothing to discuss. You are not welcome in this home. Do not contact me or my children again. Any further communication will be handled through legal channels. She hovered over the send button for a long moment. It felt like she was severing a limb. Except the limb had tried to seduce her daughter, so honestly, good riddance. Then she hit send. No confetti. No angels singing. Just a quiet, decisive whoosh as the message left the phone and formally declared war. Lily leaned against me, exhausted. What happens now? I thought Mom would say therapy. Or lawyers. Or logistics. Something procedural. Instead, she surprised both of us. We stay together, she said. We hold the line. We don't hide. And we don't let him guilt, confuse, or gaslight us. She looked at Lily specifically. He does not get to rewrite what happened. Not this time. Lily nodded, but uncertainty still lingered around her like fog. What if he tells people I wanted this? My stomach dropped. Because yes, Rick absolutely seemed like the type to weaponize denial and blame everyone but himself. We'll get ahead of him, I said. We'll tell the truth before he twists it. Mom hesitated. We don't need to broadcast every detail, but we need support. People we trust. People who won't judge. She looked at Lily. Your aunt. Maybe my sister. Maybe our family therapist. The thought of telling relatives made Lily wince. Mom, they'll think I'm. No, Mom interrupted. They'll think Rick is what he is, a man who crossed boundaries he had no right to cross. I nodded. And if any of them try to put this on you, I'll personally remove them from the group chat and their Christmas card lists. It got a tiny laugh out of Lily. Small victories. But then the worst possible sound filled the air. A car engine. Pulling into the driveway. Mom went pale. Lily froze like a deer. My stomach turned to stone. I moved to the window. Rick. Of course it was him. Because nothing says. I understand boundaries. Like showing up uninvited immediately after being told to disappear. He climbed out of the car, smoothed his shirt, and strode toward the front door with the confidence of a man who believed he could talk his way out of a burning building while holding the matches. Mom whispered, "Don't open that door." Wasn't planning on it, I said. Rick rang the doorbell. Then knocked. Then knocked harder. Then tried the handle. Lily covered her mouth with her hands. Mom clutched her chest. And I stepped forward because if anyone was going to handle this mess, it wasn't going to be the two people he'd already hurt. I was halfway to the door when Rick's voice boomed through it. I think we should all calm down and talk like adults. I stopped walking. Calm. Adults. This man truly had no idea what kind of storm he just stepped into. Rick kept pounding on the door like he was auditioning for the world's least self-aware SWAT team. Mom flinched at every hit. Lily was practically folded in half on the couch, arms over her head, like she could hide from the sound. I walked right up to the door but didn't open it. I wanted him to hear me clearly through the wood. Rick, I said, voice leveled. Leave. Now. He huffed. Marcus, don't be dramatic. We need to talk this through. No, I said. You need to respect the boundary you were given. This isn't up for debate. He jiggled the handle again, twice. I'm not leaving until someone gives me 5 minutes. Mom whispered behind me. Don't engage. He wants a reaction. But it was too late for peacekeeping. Rick had crossed that line months ago. I lowered my voice. Rick, if you don't get off our porch, I'm calling the police. There was a pause, a small, shocked silence, like he hadn't expected an actual consequence. Then, the police? He scoffed. For what? Talking to my family? You're? I almost laughed. You are not part of this family anymore. You forfeited that the minute you involved my sister. Another long, tense pause. Then he said the most infuriating thing he could have chosen. Lily's an adult, Marcus. She made her own choices. I turned so fast I nearly slipped. Mom gasped. Lily let out this tiny, wounded sound that made me want to rip the door off its hinges and beat Rick with it. I stepped even closer to the door, jaw tight. She was vulnerable. You abused that. You manipulated her. And you're not going to stand on our porch and pretend you were some equal participant in a fairy tale romance. Rick's tone shifted, from full reasonable to defensive. I didn't hurt anyone. This is all getting twisted into something ugly. You did that, I snapped. You twisted it. You created the ugly. Mom touched my shoulder lightly. She wasn't stopping me, just reminding me we were in this together. Rick must have felt the power shift, because his voice got shaky. Can you at least let me talk to Christine? Just 5 minutes. She owes me that. Mom stepped forward, close enough to speak without yelling. I owe you nothing. If silence could slap, he just got smacked. Rick's voice cracked. Christine, please. No, she said firmly. Get off my property. He muttered something I couldn't hear, probably insulting or self-pitying, his two default moods. Then his footsteps stomped away. I watched through the peephole as he walked to his car, paced beside it, muttering, shaking his head, like he was the victim in some tragic opera. Then he finally got in and drove off, too fast, tires squealing like a toddler having a tantrum. Mom sagged against the wall. Lily burst into fresh tears. And I exhaled for what felt like the first time in an hour. That's not the end, Mom whispered. People like him don't disappear quietly. And she was right. Because the next morning, at 7:12 a.m., Rick sent a group text, to Mom, to me, and to Lily. Since none of you want to act like adults, I'll be explaining the situation to our family myself. I won't let you ruin my reputation with lies. Lies. Reputation. He was preparing for war. I looked at the message, then at my mother and sister, exhausted, fragile, but united. Okay, I said, setting my jaw. Then we don't just react. We get ahead of him. Rick's threat hung in the air like the smell of burnt plastic, impossible to ignore, impossible to pretend wasn't toxic. Mom sat at the kitchen table staring at her coffee like she hoped drowning in it was an option. Lily hovered near the doorway, arms wrapped around herself, pacing the same 3 steps over and over like her body was trying to walk the anxiety out of her bones. I was standing near the fridge, rereading his message for the 10th time. He's already crafting his martyr speech, I muttered. Probably rehearsing it in the mirror right now. I'm the real victim here, Your Honor. I tripped and fell into emotional manipulation. Mom didn't smile. She didn't even blink. If he tells my family first, they'll believe him. That was the knife in the chest truth. Rick wasn't just bold, he was charming. At least to people who didn't know him well. To outsiders, he looked stable, employed, good with tools, capable of pretending to care about charity drives and bake sales. Exactly the kind of man who'd claim he was being unfairly accused by an overly emotional household. And if he got ahead of us? He'd spin Lily into the villain and Mom into the hysterical wife. And me? Oh, he'd paint me as the aggressive son with anger issues. Classic strategy. He's not getting the first word, I said. We are. Mom finally looked up. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. Then we need to talk to your Aunt Maria. She's the one everyone goes to. If she believes us, everyone else will. Lily's stomach visibly dropped. Mom! Aunt Maria hates me. She doesn't hate you, Mom corrected. She thinks you're dramatic. Same thing, Lily muttered. She'll listen, I said. She's annoying, judgmental, and nosy, but she's not stupid. Mom sighed. I'll call her. Not yet, I said quickly. Let's talk in person. Rick might already be trying to reach her. We need to beat him there. Mom hesitated. Lily swallowed hard. Then Mom nodded once, grabbed her purse, and said, Okay. Let's go. Aunt Maria's house, 45 minutes later. If you've never tried to deliver a nuclear truth bomb to a woman whose personality is 40% rosary beads and 60% passive aggression, it's an experience. Aunt Maria opened the door wearing her usual uniform, a floral blouse, judgment in her eyes, and shoes that clicked like she was entering a courtroom. Well, she said, frowning at all 3 of us standing on the porch, this is dramatic. Maria, Mom said tightly, can we come in? We were barely in the living room before Aunt Maria crossed her arms. Is this about Rick? He called me this morning. Lily froze. My heart dropped. Mom's breath left her body. Of course he did, I said under my breath. Of course he sprinted straight here at dawn like the world's guiltiest rooster. Aunt Maria gave us a look that was equal parts curious and ready to gossip. He seemed very upset. Said something terrible happened and he didn't know how to fix it. Did he tell you what happened? Mom asked. No. He said he wanted to give you the chance to explain first. She raised an eyebrow. So explain. Mom sat down on the sofa. Her voice wavered, but only for a second. Rick has been inappropriate with Lily. Aunt Maria blinked. Define inappropriate. He manipulated her. I said. Emotionally. Intentionally. For months. Lily looked at the floor. He told me not to tell anyone. He said everyone would blame me. Aunt Maria gasped, not dramatically, but sharply, like something pierced her. Christine. She whispered to Mom. Is this real? Mom nodded. Yes. And Lily. She turned to my sister. You're not lying to protect yourself? Or exaggerating? Or confused? Lily's voice broke. I'm not lying. I scooted closer to Lily, and for a moment, the room was painfully silent. Then Aunt Maria exhaled long and slow. She sank into her chair, shook her head, and said the words that finally loosened the pressure in my chest. That man is a predator. Mom covered her mouth. Lily burst into tears. I felt every muscle in my body unclench. Aunt Maria wasn't done. Christine, she said, wiping her eyes. I am so sorry. And Lily, sweetheart, none of this is your fault. Not 1 inch of it. Lily sobbed harder. Then Aunt Maria stood, furious energy swirling around her like a storm. Rick called me because he wanted to weaponize my opinion. He always knew I saw through him. Well, he just lost the last ally he thought he had. Mom whispered. So, you believe us? Of course I believe you, she snapped. I may be judgmental, but I'm not blind. And just like that, the dominoes began falling. Because Aunt Maria had influence. Too much influence, honestly, and she wasn't going to keep this quiet. I'll call the rest of the family, she said. I'll make sure no one listens to his lies. For once, I muttered to Lily. Her gossip addiction works in our favor. Lily almost smiled through her tears. But just when the tension started to settle, Aunt Maria's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. And her expression darkened. It's him, she said. And then, he wants to meet all of us. Tonight. Aunt Maria stared at her buzzing phone like it was a venomous snake that had learned how to type. The room went still. Even the house seemed to stop breathing. Mom swallowed. What does he want? Aunt Maria tilted the screen so we could see the message. I think we should meet and clear the air before things get out of hand. I want everyone to hear my side. My side. Rick saying, my side, was like a fox asking to give a TED talk inside the chicken coop. He wants an audience, I said. He wants to sell his version first. Aunt Maria snorted. He can try. He won't get past me. But Lily wasn't so sure. She looked pale, almost translucent. What if he convinces them I wanted this? Or that I came on to him? Her voice cracked on the last words. That won't happen, I said instantly. But the truth was, I knew exactly how people like Rick worked. They didn't confess. They reframed. They redirected. They blamed. Mom put an arm around Lily. Sweetheart, your aunt believes you. I believe you. Marcus believes you. That's more than enough to destroy any story he tries to build. Aunt Maria nodded. If he thinks he can manipulate me, he's dumber than I thought. And I already thought he was rather dim. For a moment, that almost lightened the air, almost. Then Aunt Maria stood, shoulders squared, pacing like a general planning a counterattack. We need a plan, she said. If he wants a meeting, we control the terms. No, I said immediately. We're not giving him what he wants. He doesn't get to stand in front of a crowd and audition for sympathy points. Mom looked torn. But if we refuse, he'll say we're hiding something. Let him, I said. Truth doesn't need a stage. Lies do. Aunt Maria stopped pacing. Actually, Marcus is right. Mom blinked. He is? Yes, Aunt Maria said firmly. Rick is expecting a dramatic showdown. People like him need performance space. If we deny that, he has nowhere to direct the spotlight. So what do we do? Lily asked quietly. Aunt Maria tapped her chin. We do not meet him. Not now. Not ever. We tell the family the truth before he gets a chance to twist it. One by one. We control the narrative, not him. Mom hesitated. This will blow up the entire family. Aunt Maria's eyes softened. Christine, the family already exploded. We're just deciding where the debris lands. Silence settled again. Then Aunt Maria added, lowering her voice. And Rick doesn't know it yet, but he's about to lose everything he's trying to protect. Lily hugged herself, trembling, but this time not with fear. With relief. Because for the first time since this nightmare began, she saw something she didn't expect. She wasn't alone in the fight. After leaving Aunt Maria's house, the drive back felt like moving through thick fog. No music. No talking. Just the quiet hum of the tires and the occasional sniffle from Lily in the back seat. Mom gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles had their own zip code. I kept glancing at Lily in the rearview mirror. She looked exhausted, soul-tired, but there was something else settling in her expression too. Resolve. When we pulled into Mom's driveway, she killed the engine and said, barely above a whisper, I never expected to be living in a nightmare crafted by my own husband. I didn't correct her. It wasn't crafted by her husband, it was crafted by the man she thought he was. Inside the house, the air felt heavier, like memories had weight. And unfortunately, the house was full of them. Lily paused in the hallway, staring at a framed photo of Rick with his arm around her from last Christmas. They were smiling. She stepped closer, lifted the frame off the wall, and sat it face down on the console table. I don't want him looking at me anymore, she said. Mom quietly turned the frame over again so the back faced out. I took the photo, walked it to the trash bin outside, and dropped it in. Lily didn't need to see me do it, she just needed to know it was gone. When I came back in, Mom was on speakerphone, calling her sister, Aunt Caroline. Please pick up, she murmured, pacing. Lily sat on the couch, knees drawn up, staring at her hands. Then the voicemail beeped. Mom took a breath, then started. Caroline, I need to talk to you about Rick. Something serious. Very serious. Please call me back as soon as possible. And please don't speak to him before you speak to me. She hung up, fingers trembling. He'll call her first. Lily whispered. He'll call everyone first. No, Mom said. Not if we move fast. But we didn't get even 5 minutes of breathing room. Because Rick struck first. Mom's phone dinged, a group text. This time, he'd included her, Aunt Maria, Aunt Caroline, Uncle Ron, his brother, his parents, and even Lily. The message hit like a truck. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'd like to clear the air before Christine's children create more confusion. Please don't jump to conclusions until you've heard my side. Lily covered her mouth. Mom whispered, He's trying to paint you as unreliable. Me? I exhaled sharply. He's already playing offense. We need to be louder. Aunt Maria's reply came in seconds. There is no misunderstanding. Stop contacting this family. Rick responded instantly. You've been misled. Christine is upset, and the kids are confused. Lily winced. Mom stepped forward and typed with both hands. I am not confused. My children are not confused. You crossed boundaries with my daughter, and you know you did. Stop pretending this is anything but your betrayal. Rick read it, but didn't respond right away. But then he started sending messages individually, privately, to people on the thread. Trying to undermine. Trying to manipulate. Trying to isolate the weak links. I could practically hear him scrambling, desperate, horrified that his story might collapse before he could finish constructing it. Mom looked like she was about to cry. This is going to tear everything apart. It was already torn, I said. We're just cleaning up the pieces. But Lily stood up suddenly, surprising us both. No, she said firmly. We're not cleaning up anything. We're done letting him control this. She took Mom's phone out of her hand gently. Then she opened the group chat. Typed. Paused. Looked at me, terrified. I nodded. Then she hit send. Her message appeared, raw and shaking but unflinchingly honest. Rick manipulated me emotionally for months. He told me not to tell anyone because you'd all blame me. I didn't want to hurt anyone. But I'm done protecting him. Mom and Marcus are telling the truth. Silence. Total silence. Then, Anne Maria. I'm proud of you. Uncle Ron. What the hell, Rick? A cousin. Is this real? Rick. Lily, you're confused. You're being pressured. And then, before he could finish his sentence, Aunt Maria unleashed the text equivalent of a flamethrower. Rick. Stop talking. Lily sank onto the couch, breathing hard, like she'd just run a marathon and survived. That's it, she whispered. He can't twist it anymore. I sat beside her, pulled her into a hug, and said quietly, You just ended his narrative. And then, almost as if on cue, there was a knock at the door. 3 sharp knocks. Not frantic. Not angry. Just official. Mom froze. Who? I walked to the window. Stared. And felt my stomach drop. It's the police. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Lily went white as paper. And I said the only thing I could manage. He really called them. The knocking came again, steady, measured, the kind of knock that said someone in an official uniform is on the other side, and they're not leaving until a door opens. I glanced back at Mom and Lily. Mom looked like her soul had tripped. Lily looked like she wanted to leave her own body. I raised a hand to calm them, even though my own pulse was trying to escape through my throat. I cracked the door open. 2 officers stood there, neutral expressions, hands visible, nothing threatening in their posture. Just procedural. Evening, the first one said. We received a call from a Richard Halston. He stated there's a domestic dispute here and that he was concerned for the safety of the people inside. Ah. There it was. The moment Rick officially tried to turn this into a courtroom drama with himself as the damsel in distress. I nodded once, calm. You're welcome to come in. Everyone's safe. We have nothing to hide. They stepped inside, but with the kind of caution people use when walking into a stranger's garage, polite, but alert. They saw Mom. Then Lily, her posture tight, arms crossed as if trying to hold herself together. Ma'am, the second officer said gently. Are you okay? Is everyone safe in this home? Mom nodded, voice steady because she had worn out her capacity for tears. Yes. We're safe. We're the ones who needed protection, just not from each other. The first officer looked at me. Can someone explain what's going on? Mom swallowed, then spoke clearly, quietly, and with no hesitation. My husband manipulated my daughter into an emotional relationship for months. She finally told me last night. He's been attempting to intimidate us into silence. Now he's calling the police to flip the narrative. The officer blinked, slow and heavy, realizing the gravity. He turned to Lily. Do you feel threatened by him? Lily didn't even hesitate. Yes. The other officer nodded, a sympathetic heaviness in his expression. Do you want to make a report? Lily looked at Mom. Mom looked at me. I shook my head slowly, not no, but not yet. Mom touched Lily's arm. Sweetheart, you don't have to decide right this second. But you can. And no matter what you choose, we're with you. Lily took a shaky breath. Then another. I want to file a report, she said. The officers nodded, patient, kind in the way trained people become when they see young adults fighting battles they never should have been pushed into. They took statements. They documented everything. Lily's hands shook, but she told the truth from beginning to end. No minimizing. No self-blame. No protecting him. When they finished, the first officer closed his notebook. "Thank you," he said. "You all handled this the right way. We'll make sure he's informed not to come back here. And if he contacts any of you again in a threatening or manipulative manner, call us immediately." After they left, Mom sank onto the couch with a long, exhausted exhale, the kind that comes from surviving something, not finishing it. Lily walked over and sat beside her. She leaned her head on Mom's shoulder without a word. I sat across from them, finally letting myself breathe. The group chat had gone quiet. Rick wasn't messaging anymore, maybe because he realized things had shifted out of his control, or maybe because he understood the police showing up hadn't played out in his favor. Aunt Maria texted one last time. "Good. Let the truth do its work." And it did. The next week was messy, full of calls, statements, relatives choosing sides, most choosing ours, some too cowardly to pick anything at all. But what mattered was this. Rick didn't show up again. He didn't call again. He didn't try to twist Lily's story again. Instead, he quietly packed the rest of his things with an officer present and left town 2 days later. Not because of shame, Rick didn't have the emotional range for that, but because suddenly, everywhere he walked, people saw him differently. He wasn't a husband. He wasn't a stepfather. He wasn't misunderstood. He was exposed. And predators hate bright light. Lily started therapy. Mom joined her for some sessions. Their relationship didn't just repair, it rebuilt itself on something stronger than before: honesty and survival. Me? I moved back in for a while, not because they needed protection, but because they needed presence. A steady foundation. Someone to make coffee in the morning. Someone to remind them that life continued. Months later, Lily said something to me I'll never forget. "I used to think he chose me because I was special. But now I know he chose me because I was vulnerable. There's a difference." I told her the truth. "You are special. And now you're strong too. That's the part he never expected." She smiled, small but real. The day Mom's divorce finalized, we celebrated with takeout, bad movies, and the kind of laughter that sounds like relief. The kind that only breaks through after the storm is finally over. And as we sat together, all three of us on the couch, it hit me. We didn't just survive Rick. We erased him. Completely.